So first, I want to thank you to give me opportunity to present this work as a keynote conference. So this work, I belong to CNRS in France, and this was done in collaboration with Olivier Isnard, which is specialist of magnetism in Grenoble, and Yuri Skursky, which is managing a high magnetic field measurement in Germany. And Vitaly Stender helped me as a postdoc student. He's now in Sweden. So the outline of this talk will be first an introduction. Then I will present you a structural magnetic property of yttrium iron 2 hydride and deuterides, and the influence of different parameters like applied pressure or a chemical substitution of yttrium by another rare earth. And then I will conclude my presentation. The magnetic property of rare earth and transition metal have been raised a lot of interest from fundamental point of view for application, like for permanent magnet and many applications. The interest of this compound is that they combine two types of magnetism. The magnetism of the rare earth, which present a localized 4F moment, which is quite large, present generally large anisotropy, but has a moderate ordering temperature. The transition metal, when they have a 3D moment, have a moderate moment, but can have large ordering temperature. So when we combine both properties, we have a large variety of different properties, which result from different interactions. So you have the interaction between the two transition metal, which is a direct interaction between the 3D moment. Whereas when you have a interaction between the rare earth and another transition metal or two rare earth elements, it's indirect via the 5D electrons because the 4F moment, which are large, are too much localized. So we can try to play on these different interactions to change the magnetic property of these compounds. Among them, you have the lavage phase compounds, which are the LT2 lavage phase compounds, especially when you have the transition metal from manganese, iron, cobalt, or nickel. And the other interest of these compounds is they can absorb a large quantity of hydrogen, up to 5 hydrogen by formula unit. When you insert hydrogen in such compounds, you will have different effects. First, you observe a geometric effect with the cell volume increase and sometimes a lowering of the crystal symmetry. And because of this, you change the distance between the atoms, and it will modify the interaction, especially the indirect one, which are sensitive to distances. But also because hydrogen has an electron, it will also participate to the electronic property. We observe a new MH band in the valence band, a filling of the d band, and a change of the density of state at the Fermi level. So this will mainly modify the transition metal moments. And as a result of all this, we have different magnetic structure, ordering temperature, magnetic moments. And my purpose will be to illustrate this influence of hydrogen on a special case. I'll start with rare earth iron 2 compounds. And what we observe is that this compound are either ferromagnetic or ferrimagnetic, and they are known for their giant magnetostrictive effect at room temperature, which can be for some rare earths like terbium or samarium, 1 order of magnitude larger than other materials. And a special compound, which is called terphenol D, has been developed for many applications like magnetomechanical sensor, actuators, acoustic or ultrasonic transducer, for example. So this compound, the rare earth iron 2 hydrides, are a cubic C15 structure, which is presented here. So in green, you have the rare earth atom, which form a diamond lattice. And in red, you have the iron, which form tetrahedron. And the hydrogen can be inserted inside this structure. So there is 2 hydrogen sites which can be occupied in this compound. The one which are constituted by 2 rare earth metal atoms and 2 iron atoms. This is the largest one, and they are the most occupied. But there is also another type of site, which is rare earth iron 3, which has also many possibilities to insert into the lattice. The only thing that there is some geometric rules. The size of the radius of the interstitial site should be larger than 0.4 angstrom. And also the distance between hydrogen atoms is larger than 2 angstrom because of repulsive interaction. This means that all sites cannot be occupied, and we tend to have a kind of ordering of hydrogen inside this structure. For here, I present you the phase diagram for yttrium iron 2 deuterides, which is an example because you can do it for other various elements. Here, I plot the cell volume variation versus the hydrogen content. So here you have the starting compound, which is cubic. But when you insert hydrogen, you see that you increase the volume. And also you observe, depending on the hydrogen or deuterium content, different lowering of crystal symmetry, like tetragonal, monoclinic, orthorhombic. And each case, it's due to deuterium order inside the structure. If you look to the magnetic property of this compound, they also depend on the deuterium content. So yttrium iron 2 is ferromagnetic with a transition temperature about 550 K. When you insert hydrogen, you see that you modify the Curie temperature. First it increase and then it decrease when the hydrogen content increase. We also observe a change of the magnetic moment. So we see that the compounds are ferromagnetic up to 4, and you have a slight increase of the iron moment. And then for larger content, for X equal 1, you have no more ordered iron moment. The compound becomes paramagnetic. And this is due to a competition between the volume effect, which tend to stabilize the iron moment and increase the moment, but also the fact that you have a lot of hydrogen atoms, which electrons are transferred to the d band, and you decrease the density of state at the Fermi level, and at a certain concentration, you do not have ordering anymore. If you look to the, I want to present you what happened for the special hydrogen content or deuterium content, 4.2 Day by formula unit, which is here because it's at the border of the magnetic instability. The structure of this compound is a distortion of the cubic C15 structure. It's monoclinic with a doubling along the B-axis. Here you have the cell parameter. The important point is a very large cell volume increase of 26%. And the fact that because of the lowering of symmetry, you have different yttrium on iron site, and also 18 sites are occupied by hydrogen. If you look to the magnetic property of this compound, so with the concentration 4.2, we see that there is a very intriguing effect, which has been only observed for such type of compounds, to my knowledge. If you observe the magnetization versus temperature, you observe here, you have a very sharp transition from ferromagnetic to antiferromagnetic structure. And if you compare the deuteride with the hydride, you see that this transition temperature is larger. The difference is 47 K, which is very large. So what is the origin of this isotope effect? The two compounds have the same structure, but they have different cell volume. In fact, the deuteride has a lower cell volume than the hydride. This is explained by the difference of amplitude of vibration, 0-point vibration of the atoms. In fact, the deuterium has a larger mass and vibrate less around this equilibrium position, so occupy less space than hydrogen. And we see that this transition temperature from ferromagnetic to antiferromagnetic structure increase linearly versus the cell volume. So we suppose that this large isotope effect is related to a magnetovolume effect. So to confirm this, we have decided to explore the influence of cell volume variation by two ways. One is to apply an external pressure. The other one is to replace yttrium by another rarest element. So here you have the cell volume versus the applied pressure. You see that it decreases versus the applied pressure. You have even a transition from monoclinic to cubic structure. If you replace yttrium by another rare earth element, in fact, the influence of the volume will depend on the size of the rare earth. For example, for terbium, which has a slightly larger cell volume radius than yttrium, it will increase. But for erbium or lutetium, the volume decreases. And also what is very interesting, we see that the difference of volume between the hydride and the deuteride is maintained whatever the substitution. So we can play on the cell volume by this different way. So first, I will show you what happens when you apply an external pressure. Here you have the magnetization curve versus temperature under pressure. So here you have the transition without pressure, and when you apply a pressure up to 0.55 gigapascal, you see that this transition temperature is shifted. The transition temperature is shifted to lower value. Here you have this ferromagnetic, antiferromagnetic transition temperature versus the applied pressure. They decrease linearly, and above this pressure of 0.55 gigapascal, in fact, you have no more ferromagnetic state. We observe by neutron diffraction that it becomes fully antiferromagnetic. Then, if you plot this transition temperature versus the corresponding cell volume, which has been also measured under pressure, we see that here you have the linear decrease of the transition temperature as the cell volume decrease for the deuteride, and here for the hydride. We see the slope are different, but they converge to a critical cell volume, which is necessary to the onset of ferromagnetism. Now, what happens when you replace yttrium by another element? So I choose to present you first what happened with erbium. Here again, I show you the decrease of the cell volume versus the erbium content. For the hydride in red and blue in deuteride, the isotope effect is also observed. And I will show you first what happened for a concentration of 30% of erbium in the deuteride. Here, I present you the magnetization versus the temperature. What we observe. First, at low temperature, you have an increase of the magnetization, which reach a maximum about 50 K, and then decrease sharply. To explain this behavior, we have done a neutron diffraction experiment at ELL in France, and we have measured the neutron diffraction pattern versus temperature. And we see that there is different lines which are present corresponding to magnetic lines. So here you have the erbium contribution. Here you have the iron contribution in a ferromagnetic arrangement. And here you see the appearance and disappearance of a peak which correspond to an antiferromagnetic structure. And if you plot the intensity of these various lines, you can have a description which allows to explain the magnetization behavior. So up to 50 K, you have ferromagnetic, in red for erbium and in blue for iron. Then you have the transition from ferri to antiferromagnetic structure up to from 66K to 125K. And above this temperature, you have a paramagnetic behavior. We see also that these transitions are accompanied by a sharp decrease of the cell volume for the ferro-antiferromagnetic transition, a slight decrease in the antiferromagnetic range. And then you have a problem?
Sorry, 1 second. Someone will disturb.
Okay. And then you increase the cell volume due to thermal expansion. Now, what happens when you plot the magnetization of this compound versus the applied field? So the field maximum was 35 Tesla. It was measured at Grenoble in high magnetic field laboratory. What we see first, I present you what happened in the low temperature range. We see here the magnetization versus the applied field. And we see that all the curve undergoes a transition, a metamagnetic transition from a ferrimagnetic state towards a ferromagnetic state. If you compare to yttrium iron 2 D42 without erbium, we see that all the curves cross around the same point, the same inflection point, which correspond to the transition field of this transition. If you look to happen, what undergo at higher temperature at the ferromagnetic, antiferromagnetic transition, you see also metamagnetic behavior, but in this case, the transition field is shifted to a larger value as the temperature of measurement increase. So we can plot first the spontaneous magnetization and the saturation magnetization. This is one at low field and here at larger field. At low field, we see that we have a ferrimagnetic behavior as expected. It's very good because you see if you plot the moment, iron moment, and the erbium moment, you have a collinear ferrimagnetic structure, and we can explain the moment here by the subtraction of iron moment minus that of erbium. The only point is that here the erbium moment is only 6.3 Bohr magneton, which is reduced compared to the free ion value of erbium, which is 9 Bohr magneton. Above here, you have the very low value for the spontaneous magnetization because you are in the antiferromagnetic range. Here you have the saturation magnetization, and you can explain the magnetic behavior by a ferromagnetic state. Here also it's collinear, and here the erbium moment is that of the free ion. So we can confirm by comparison with the deuterite without erbium that it's ferromagnetic up to larger temperature, up to 160 K. Now, if you plot the transition field versus the temperature, in the low temperature range, we see that you have the ferrimagnetic behavior. You have the transition field, which is not very sensitive to temperature. And at higher temperature, we have the linear decrease of this transition field when the temperature decreases. You can extrapolate a value of transition at zero field, and we see that it's smaller when you substitute erbium. Here, I present you the magnetic phase diagram. You see that here you have ferrimagnetic, you have the transition towards the ferromagnetic state. And we expect that this transition occurs through a demagnetization of the erbium moment. Then you have this intermediate range, and above you have this transition from antiferromagnetic state again towards the aligned ferromagnetic state where iron and erbium are parallel. Now, what happens when you change the erbium content? So I vary the erbium content from 0 without erbium for different rate of erbium until 1. If here you compare the magnetization curve versus applied field up to 9 Tesla, we see the ferrimagnetic behavior, and here we start to change of the magnetic order. If you measure the different value of the spontaneous magnetization, you have a very good agreement between experimental and calculated value, which confirms the ferrimagnetic state. And here above around 0.5 erbium content, you are close to the compensation point, the point at which the two sublattices have the same moment, but of opposite direction. It's also interesting to plot the slope of this curve, and we see that it increased, go to maximum at 0.5 and decrease again. Now, what happened when you increase the magnetic field? It was done at Dresden in the pulsed high magnetic field laboratory under pulsed magnetic field. And here I compare the value for the magnetization for different compounds with different erbium concentration. For all compounds, we see that the transition field is about the same, around 8 Tesla, and it's close to 4, which is a crossing value close to that of iron. If you plot the saturation magnetization, in blue you have the experimental value, and in red the calculated one, assuming a fully ferromagnetic state, and we see that there is a good agreement. So we reach saturation. We only see that the field necessary to reach saturation increase with the erbium content, which means that due to the anisotropy of erbium, you need a higher field to align the erbium parallel to the iron sublattice. If you plot the transition field for this different compound, here we confirm that the transition field for the ferromagnetic transition is not too much sensitive to erbium content. And here you have the ferro-antiferromagnetic transition. And in this case, we see that the transition field decrease with the erbium content. And here the slope also is sensitive to the erbium content and maximum at the compensation point, as observed before. Now I will show you TM0, which is the value extrapolated at zero field, which corresponds to a ferromagnetic transition, versus the erbium content. We see that it decreases linearly for the deuteride and for the hydride, but the difference of temperature remains very large, 42 Kelvin in average between the two. So the isotope effect is maintained. Then if you plot this TM0 versus the cell volume of the compound, we see that here for the hydride and the deuteride, they are parallel and there is still a difference between the two. And I also add the value which were measured under pressure. So in all cases, we see that we have a magnetovolumic effect. The transition temperature is sensitive to the change of volume, but it's not a pure magnetovolume effect because the slopes are different. Pure erbium substitution, you have a 13K by angstrom cube decrease. For the isotope effect is minus 26 Kelvin by angstrom cube, and the pressure effect is still larger, which means that we should also consider other effects, for example, the phonon effect or the magnetic moment of erbium, which should add molecular field influence. Now I will just conclude though on this erbium compounds. We see the two types of metamagnetic transition, which are related either to ferromagnetic transition, which means that you have a reduction of the erbium-iron interaction by H insertion, because without hydrogen, you cannot see this transition. And if you compare to other compounds, which are richer in iron, the transition field is around 30-40 Tesla. Concerning the ferro-antiferromagnetic transition, we see that it's related to the behavior of the iron lattice, its itinerant electron metamagnetic behavior. It's sensitive to volume change, but it's not a pure magnetovolumic effect. Now I will continue to present you the influence of rare earth elements, which are heavy rare earths, from gadolinium to thulium. The interest is that we wanted to see if it's possible to see such transition even for heavy rare earths like gadolinium, because generally it's not observed for this compound, and we wanted to see the influence of the rare earths. So I will just concentrate on what happened at low temperature at 4.2 K for this ferromagnetic transition. First, we see that at low field, here we have the ferromagnetic behavior, and we see the deviation when you increase the field. The only thing is that the field at which we see the deviation depends on the rare earth. It's as expected larger for gadolinium and progressively decrease until thulium. And even for thulium, what is strange is that we don't see the ferromagnetic state. And this behavior is related to the evolution of the De Gennes factor, which means that the interaction is larger for gadolinium and decrease when we go toward thulium. What happened for thulium? Here you have the result. So we see that directly we go to the saturation towards the ferromagnetic state without ferromagnetic state at low field. If you look to another compound, which is thulium iron 2 with a hydrogen concentration of 3.4, which is a slightly lower, here you have the behavior which look like we observe with erbium compounds. There is a transition field of 10 Tesla, and we observe the transition from ferromagnetic towards the ferromagnetic state. And also it's interesting, it's not too dependent of the temperature. If you look to another type of rare earth iron compounds, but richer in iron, which are 217, here it's without hydrogen, and we see the influence of hydrogen content, 3.5 and 5. And we see that in all cases, you have the ferromagnetic state, which is present up to 30-40 Tesla, and the transition occur around 40 Tesla, which demonstrates that for a given rare earth element, the strong influence of the H content on this transition. Now I present you what happened for gadolinium. So for gadolinium, I present for different gadolinium content from 0.1 to 0.75. In all cases, you have the ferromagnetic behavior at low field, and also we see the deviation from this ferromagnetic behavior. Here I plot the field at which the deviation occur, and we see that even it decreases when you go to 0.5, which is the compensation point here also. But if you try to determine the saturation field, we see that at 60 Tesla, it's still insufficient to get saturation. By linear extrapolation, we could estimate a possible saturation field and see it should be larger than 75, even above 100 Tesla, if you want to get saturation with gadolinium. So to conclude this talk, I show that this compound with this type of hydrogen content are close to magnetic instability. And if you look what happened at low temperature, we confirm that there is a forced ferromagnetic transition, which depend on the nature of the air elements and also of the rate of air elements. Its largest one is for gadolinium, but for thulium, we see that it shifted to 0 because we reach directly the ferromagnetic state without intermediate ferrimagnetic state. And we confirm that the RAS-iron interaction decrease not only with hydrogen insertion, but also with the nature of the elements. So I thank you for your attention. This is a picture of Paris. I hope you visit once. And I'm ready to answer your question.